Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Tonight we delve into the abyss of the unknown, the echoing darkness of deserted factories where rust whispers and shadows dance. We're talking about those places swallowed by silence, left to decay but not to die. Oh no, something lingers within those crumbling walls. Tonight we explore three terrifying tales of unexplained noises from the bowels of these forgotten behemoths. Our first story takes us to the outskirts of a forgotten town, a place most people wouldn't dare to visit, especially not after dark. Towering over the landscape is the Blackwood Steel Mill, a monument to a bygone era, now nothing more than a skeleton of steel and shadows. It's here we find William, a weathered old soul, hardened by years of solitude, taking on the graveyard shift as the night guard. William had heard stories about the mill being haunted, but he brushed them off as mere superstition. He'd seen his fair share of rats and stray animals, but ghosts? That was a different story. The first few nights were uneventful, the only sound the wind howling through the broken windows. But then, on the seventh night, things took a sinister turn. It started subtly, a faint metallic groan echoing through the vast emptiness of the factory floor. William dismissed it as his imagination, the building settling after years of neglect. But as the hours ticked by, the noises grew bolder, more insistent. Loud bangs like metal slamming against metal reverberated through the silence, each one sending shivers down his spine. He grabbed his flashlight and followed the sounds. They led him to the heart of the factory, the old furnace room, its massive door creaking open as if inviting him in. He took a hesitant step inside, his heart pounding against his ribs, the air thick with the smell of rust and decay. That's when he heard it again, a blood-curdling scream echoing from the depths of the furnace. Frozen in fear, William shone his light into the dark abyss of the furnace, but there was nothing there, just the echoing silence of the empty chamber. He stumbled back, his mind racing, his heart pounding in his chest. He had to get out of there, had to escape the oppressive darkness that seemed to be closing in on him. He ran, his heart pounding in his ears, the sound of his own footsteps echoing through the empty halls. He didn't stop running until he reached his little security shack, the flickering fluorescent light a beacon of safety in the overwhelming darkness. From that night on, William refused to step foot inside the factory. He quit his job the next day, leaving the Blackwood Steel Mill to its secrets, forever haunted by the echoes of the past. Our next story takes us into the heart of a sprawling metropolis where a different kind of fear festers in the shadows. A group of 4 friends, Jake, Emily, Chris and Sarah, all urban exploration enthusiasts, decided to explore the abandoned Packard automotive plant, a labyrinth of decaying concrete and shattered glass. Armed with their cameras and a thirst for adventure, they stepped into the belly of the beast, unaware of the nightmare that awaited them. The air inside the factory was heavy with the smell of decay and dust, the only light filtering through the grime-covered windows. As they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the silence was broken only by the sound of their own footsteps and the whirring of their cameras. They were captivated by the eerie beauty of the decaying structure, the way nature was slowly reclaiming what man had left behind. They reached the factory floor, a cavernous space where thousands of cars were once assembled. Now it was an empty expanse of concrete, littered with debris and forgotten machinery. As they fanned out to explore, a strange feeling settled over them, a prickling sensation at the back of their necks as if they were being watched. Suddenly, there it was again, a noise. This time it was a dragging sound, slow and deliberate, coming from the far end of the factory floor. They cautiously approached the source of the sound, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. They rounded a corner, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, and came to an abrupt halt. In the middle of the floor, a heavy metal chain swayed slightly as if recently disturbed, but there was no one there. They exchanged uneasy glances, their initial excitement replaced by a growing sense of dread. They tried to rationalize the experience, attributing the moving chain to drafts or their imagination, but deep down they knew something wasn't right. As they continued their exploration, the noises became more frequent, more unsettling. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, disembodied voices speaking in languages they couldn't understand. The shadows themselves seemed to writhe and contort, taking on menacing shapes that sent shivers down their spines. Then, as they were about to call it a night, they heard it. A blood-curdling scream echoing through the vast emptiness of the factory, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps running towards them. Panic surged through the group. They turned and ran, their flashlights bobbing wildly in the darkness, their breath catching in their throats. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of their car, the engine roaring to life, a symphony of relief. Our final tale brings us to the desolate plains of the Midwest, where secrets are buried deep beneath layers of dust and time. It centers around Thomas, a paranormal investigator known for his skepticism and determination to uncover the truth. He'd heard whispers of the abandoned Cranbrook textile mill, a place steeped in tragedy, where the echoes of the past refused to die. Intrigued, Thomas decided to spend a night in the factory, hoping to debunk the rumors and expose the truth. Armed with his EMF reader, thermal camera, and audio recorder, Thomas stepped into the desolate shell of the factory. The setting sun casting long, eerie shadows. The air was thick with dust and the smell of decay, a testament to the years of neglect. As darkness enveloped the factory, Thomas began his investigation, his footsteps echoing through the empty halls. He started with the factory floor, where legend had it. A fire had claimed the lives of dozens of workers, their souls forever trapped within the charred remains. He meticulously scanned the area with his EMF reader, the silence broken only by the hiss of static. Then a sudden spike on the meter, accompanied by a sharp drop in temperature. His heart quickened, his senses on high alert. He swung his thermal camera towards the reading, his breath catching as he saw a distinct cold spot forming near an old loom. He reached out to touch the cold spot, a shiver running down his spine as his fingers met an unnatural chill. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by a cacophony of sounds, the whirring of machinery, the clatter of metal, the screams of terrified workers. It was as if the factory had roared back to life, replaying the horrors of its past for Thomas to witness. He fumbled for his audio recorder, capturing the spine-chilling soundscape, his heart pounding. The air grew heavy with the smell of smoke and burning flesh, the temperature plummeting further. He knew then that he wasn't dealing with mere residual energy. This was something more, something malevolent, something that wanted him to bear witness to its suffering. As he moved deeper into the factory, drawn by the escalating chaos, he stumbled upon a room he hadn't noticed before. The door creaked open, revealing a scene frozen in time. A supervisor's office, its walls lined with faded photographs, the desk covered in scattered papers, and in the center of the room, a skeletal figure slumped over a desk. Thomas cautiously approached the figure, his heart pounding, and reached out to examine the note. The paper crumbled at his touch, dust raining down, but not before he made out a few chilling words. Trapped. Fire. Can't escape. Help us. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the air, echoing through the factory, shaking the very foundation of the building. Thomas stumbled back, dropping his equipment, as a wave of cold air washed over him, extinguishing his lantern and plunging him into absolute darkness. He was surrounded by the unseen entities, their cold, desperate energy pressing in on him from all sides. The screams intensified, a chorus of agony and despair that seemed to claw at his sanity. He scrambled back, his hands outstretched, desperately searching for the exit, his heart pounding against his ribs. He ran blindly through the darkness, the screams of the past echoing in his ears, until he finally burst out of the factory doors, collapsing onto the cold, hard ground, gasping for breath. He never looked back, but he carried the memory of that night, The sounds, the smells, the chilling touch of the unseen, forever etched into his soul. There you have it, my friends. 3 terrifying tales of unexplained noises in deserted factories. These stories serve as a chilling reminder that some places hold secrets best left buried. Did any of these stories send a shiver down your spine? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep the lights on, and if you hear a noise, don't investigate.